So for all of my books start out with a box, because I can't write a book right away. I have to think about a book for a long time. And when I start thinking about a book, I get a box. And sometimes it's a shoe box, or sometimes it's an old Amazon box or something. And I will start to let things accumulate in a book into the box. And sometimes it'll be a sentence that pleases me, or sometimes it'll be some notes about a character, or sometimes it'll be some things that are true about the magic. For The Girl Who Drank the Moon, that book started with a poem and a swamp monster. I was out for a run, and I was on this beautiful little wooded trail, and I had this sudden image in my head of a swamp monster with 4 arms and a very long tail and wide, damp jaws. And one thing that never made it into the book is that his eyes moved independently of one another. And he was holding a daisy, and he recited a poem. And the thing is that I don't think in pictures very often. It's very rare for me, actually. I think in language, I think in sounds, I think in smells, and I think in touch. But I really don't think in images at all. And so, but when I do get these unbidden visions, this like bright, really sharp picture. So first of all, it exhausts me when it happens, but I always pay attention to it. So I stood there and I memorized the poem, and I ran home and I wrote the poem down. And it was, the heart is built of starlight and time, a pinprick of longing lost in the dark, etc., etc. Which is the last poem that appears in the book. And I wrote it down, and I never changed it. I didn't change a single word. And so I stared at the poem. I was like, what is this? And so then I turned, and I just wrote it on a little note card. And then I turned the note card over, and I wrote the words swamp monster. And then I stared at that for a little bit, and then I wrote, his name is Glurk. And then I was like, well, crikey, this is a book, I think. And so I got a box, and I put it in the box. And so over time, I put all kinds of things in the box. I drew a picture of Grand Elder Gerlin's robes, and I drew a picture of the tree house that Zan lived in, and I drew a picture of one of the dresses that that Luna wore, and I wrote poems, and I wrote things that were true in the Protectorate. I did a lot of research on bogs. Bogs are cool, and I talked a lot. I wrote a lot about Zan's magic. I wrote a lot about Zan's history, just little tiny bits and pieces, and it would all just go in the box. And I usually have to think about a book for about 2 years, sometimes more, before I can start to write about it. And so by the time I write, I know a lot about what the magic feels like. And I know a lot about what the world smells like, and I know a lot about what the bark of the trees feels like, and I know a lot about the texture of people's hair, and I know a lot about the clothes that they wear, and because I've thought about all of those things. And so part of getting ready to write a book is to be in that place and to be in that world, and to just pay attention, and to pay attention to things that even your characters don't notice. I don't always know how the story's going to end, but I know all the details.